Hello and welcome to Women Thrive TV. I'm so excited to have you here for another episode. And today we're actually talking about the 5 keys to falling madly in love with your true self. I love this topic because today's guest is someone truly special who truly embodies the feminine energy and self-love, who is Sapha Pardo. Hello, Sapha. How are you?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here today, and it's so good to see you.
Always is, Safa. I know today's episode is going to be off the charts. It's going to be fun. It's going to be divine. And you're in for a Safa church. And if you don't know what that means, you will find out. But I just want to hint to you that it's divine. It's just divine experience to hear Safa speak. So that's what you're in for a treat today. Is that true?
That makes me honestly, the first time, I think it was Cassandra who said that the first time during the Women Thrive Summit, like calls. And it made my heart so happy because I've just always been the person who's able to tune into what is present. Now, obviously, life happens, right? Some of it comes from being a hypervigilant child and living with trauma at home, but some of it just comes from having a sense of that energetic field and listening and paying attention to what the context of what people are sharing from their hearts truly is. And so the fact that shines through, it just makes me so happy because you never know, but I love the verbosity and I love that it shows and it just makes me so happy.
Well, one, you're a great speaker, and two, that natural tune in is really powerful. And I think the downloads that just come straight from your heart and from your soul is definitely soul nourishing. So you're in for an absolute treat. So before we begin, the 5 keys to falling madly in love with your true self, my guest is Sapha Pardo, who is embodied sovereignty mentor and priestess of feminine alchemy. And she blends the feminine embodiment, emotional mastery, and introspective practices to guide women in reclaiming personal sovereignty and transforming their lives. And with over a decade of experience, she helps clients excavate subconscious wounds and limiting beliefs, fostering self compassion and inner power. And through her compassionate guidance, she facilitates a journey for women to reconnect with their purpose, embody authenticity, and step into fulfillment, creating a safe space for women to grow and create more self love in their lives, their relationships, their business, and their core existence. That's what Safa does. Have I kind of captured it well?
Yes, absolutely. So my heart really is what I always tell people is I believe in your power. I don't believe that we are broken little things that we need to piece back together. I believe that every woman in this planet is a powerful being. And I see that day in and day out. And from that place of belief and that knowing of the other person's power, we create things that feel very tangible. It's one thing to wake up in the morning and say your affirmations in front of the mirror and say, I am powerful, I am beautiful, I am all of these things. It's another thing to feel them, embody them, and give them life on a day-to-day basis. And that's really what I believe we are here to do with each other. So I always call it a mentorship because it's this weaving of things together. We're working on something as equals, and I am very much just infusing what's already there and maybe taking the bramble out of the way a little bit, maybe turning the light on where there's a little bit of darkness, and maybe even infusing that darkness with not light, but love and tenderness and caring and understanding, and then cementing it deeply so that we can ground into the core of our beings and then from that space shine forth. So this is very much the calling of my heart has always been toward women. It's always been toward women. It's always been toward their liberation, toward their empowerment, their ability to shine and take up space in this world. And there is nothing that drives me more than that. So, yes, you got it.
I mean, that's the true essence of empowerment coach who sees you as an equal and not only imparts their wisdom, but allows you to that space to create. And because, as you said, we have that inner wisdom that a lot of times we forget. And then there are people who come into our lives who are meant to be mentors, but in a way they gaslight our own knowledge, which I really despise that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I always feel like you're the one at the helm, right? You're the one who's the lead. I always tell people you're the main character, you're the queen, you're the director, you're the one that's driving the boat, you're the one that's doing everything. My job is to, from that space, watch, witness, listen, and ask questions. Like, hey, you used this word. Let's just take a look at it. Let's just like have a conversation about it. So very much, and the five keys that we're going to talk about deal with this. This is basically my body of work is the realm of self-seduction and personal sovereignty. And the reason why that's so important is because through our lives, we get taught to do quite the opposite of what these two things do. So self-seduction, personal sovereignty allow us to put ourselves very much at the center of our lives from a place of not only empowered action, but from a place of self-trust, self-understanding, self-acknowledgement, and from a place of intimacy with the self. Usually, what we grow up hearing is the opposite. It's like, quiet down. You're not allowed to be so loud. Don't do this. You're going to take, you're going to get too much attention, or people are going to look at you weird, or don't cry because, you're going to make everybody uncomfortable. We get all of these no's in early life. And we start relating to the self as this really cumbersome other thing that we have to lug around. It's almost like it's a backpack we have to like deal with through our day to day. And it really gets to be so different once we understand we are the ones that are in charge. And when that relationship is mended, when it's healed, when we can understand that we are able to trust and listen to ourselves, and that it's not just this magical thing that like exists outside of the self, everything starts to change. So that's why I always say, I'll share this with you because I think you'll understand it. I think maybe the listeners will relate to this a little bit. I used to laugh so much because at the beginning of my entrepreneurship, working with coaches, they would get so frustrated with me. They were like, you have to tell me what it is that you do, and I need the tangible outcomes. And I understand. But my thing was always like, I would just look at them like, I don't know how to tell you what I do because it's different for each person. They would get so mad at me. They're like, of course, but there's a procedure, there's a methodology. And of course there is. But my point was that it's so different. I don't just sit down and check things off. I
Mm.
don't just go, oh, you said this, therefore you have a mother wound. You said this, therefore you, but like, I literally allow you to be the one who's leading the charge. And so what I'm doing is just as you lead the way, I'm serving very much. This is an idea centered in mythology, very much centered as the guide ahead, because I've been through the underworld myself so many times that I can just say, like, hey, okay, like there's a blind spot there. Like maybe let's just not do it that way. And
Mm.
obviously, it's a little bit difficult to put into words, but the magic about that is when you are at the center and you're not being seen as a problem to fix or as one more number, when everything is tailor made to you, it feels like you're truly being cared for rather than you're just being labeled. Like rather than just you're just being told, oh, well, you have this type of attachment style, now go deal with it. Like it changes the dynamic. And it changes the dynamic with the person that you're working with, because I'm not here to dictate. I'm not here to say, go do this. And if you don't do it, F for failure. Like that's what I always
Yes.
tell my
Yeah.
clients. I laugh so hard. We'll talk and I'll say, hey, try this out. And then the next time, the first few times we start working together, the next time they'll come back and be like, oh, I didn't do it. And I'm like, I don't care. It was a thought. Like, if you explore it. If you don't, that's fine. And at some point down the line, you might get there and it'll serve you. But I'm not here to grade. I'm not going to give you a gold star. I'm not going to give you an F. Either way, we're still working within your parameters and we're working with your own power. Because again, like I said, I believe in your power. I lead from your place of self-importance. But self-importance, I know I say that word and people are like, oh my God, I'm not self-important. But I say that from a place of sovereignty. It's such an important word for me because it means you get to take up all the space. You get to choose. You lead the charge. You're the one with the crown on your head. You're not being tossed around by circumstance. And that's where we collaborate from.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, I truly think that's such an empowering way of working with people and allowing them to take the space and be who they are meant to be. And I don't believe, as you said as well, just we broken and we're looking for solutions outside of ourselves. If you have the right mentor, they'll help you find the solutions within and continue to excavate that superpower from within. And I love that. That's what you do. All right, let's dive right into those 5 keys, which I'm really excited to get to know what you got to share with the audience today.
Okay, I'm excited too. So these 5 keys are the whole bones and structure of my body of work. We talked about self-seduction and personal sovereignty, but how, right? How do we get there? So the first thing that we do, and this is the way to fall madly in love with yourself. And I want to say that this is important because I'll start here. The reason this makes a difference is because in the world of self-help and in the world of self-development, what we often do is we intake a vast amount of knowledge and we keep intaking the knowledge and we keep accruing the courses, the masterminds, the books, the podcasts, the things. And we find ourselves stuck in the same space no matter how many years go by. This was me. I started meditating. I started doing yoga. I started reading the books. I started listening. I started doing the affirmations, and I felt like nothing was changing. And if you're in that space, this is the reason why that's happening, is because in the way of falling madly in love with yourself, in the way of freeing yourself from that feeling of stagnation, in the way of creating a life that, as I say, feels like a romance for the ages, the key to falling in love with yourself truly is to put all of the knowledge aside for a moment and to land in your heart, to land in your selfhood, to land in your essence of self so deeply that you can't help but to fall in love with yourself, aka that self-romancing, that self-seduction, that personal sovereignty, right? And the personal sovereignty is the one that gives us the shift from stuck to, oh, okay, I can take action, I can magnetize, I can manifest, etc. So 5 keys, right? So this is the body work that I do. We start by distilling. So distillation is the process of slowly simmering something and allowing it to make a journey all the way through to the other end where it's been transmuted. So what we do is we delve into the subconscious, right? We rewire, we unblock and unlock the things that are in the way, what I called earlier the bramble. We allow those things to be distilled. We transform them. And notice that I'm saying distilled. I'm not saying destroyed or obliterated or we take them out. We change them because there's something in psychology considered and spoken about in terms of the shadow self. Jung was the one that led the charge with this. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. I'm very nerdy, so bear with me. But the shadow aspects of self are not dangerous. They're not bad. They're not the things that like we should be ashamed of. There are aspects of self that live within the subconscious. There are things in there that are sticky. Maybe like there's jealousy. Maybe there's comparison. Maybe there's all of these things. And what I find the most potent part of healing those aspects of self isn't getting rid of them.
Mm,
It's taking them, it's asking them questions, it's observing them, it's getting to know them, it's building intimacy. Here we go again, realm of self-seduction. It's building intimacy and then allowing them to break down so that we have breakthroughs. That's distillation. So that's the first thing that we do is we start getting to know the self. I also call this the realm of the inner child. Like this is where you get to ask the why question, not in a judgy way, but like, okay, but why? You know how your kid does this, like, why? Why do we go outside? Why do we put shoes on? Why do we do like it sounds so silly and annoying to us when we're grown-ups, but you as a person, when you start looking at your subconscious self, and you start asking it those kinds of questions, it tells these beautiful stories. And through those stories, we go into the second step, the second key, which is attunement. So we've done the distillment, we've done that courtship, we've done the asking questions, we've done the curiosity part. And as that steam, so to speak, just to give you the visual, I'm a very visual person. So to give you that visual, as that steam starts climbing up to the other side to turn into that beautiful golden substance, right? What we have is the attunement. Attunement is that place where we no longer reside just in knowledge and we start landing deep into the field of embodiment. And embodied being is about the way of the thing that they are. So if you're saying that you want to be fully embodied in your feminine, this isn't about bending over backwards to fulfill the qualities of the gender-based identifiers we've been taught to follow. It's about honoring the sacredness within your heart. In a fully embodied feminine understands that her own divinity, her own sacredness means that she is worthy of receiving and attuning to becoming an aligned match, being about the most wondrous things in this world, the things that are going to open the door to abundance, to love, to fulfillment, to purpose. You want a purpose-led life? Do you want to feel fulfilled in what you're doing? It isn't about the things that you are doing. It's not about performing. It's not a performative art. It's embodiment. And this is, I'm not even talking about the embodiment that sometimes we talk a lot about in manifestation, where it's like, you have to be the woman who's going to receive the thing. That's good. This is sort of the dark feminine aspect of that, meaning the deeper sense of that. This is the one that says, not only am I acting from a place of the woman who is going to receive that, I am that person already. And by virtue of understanding what I've distilled, I'm going to attune to the things that are going to best serve me in this moment right now. Because there's a difference between I want the thing. And yes, okay, I'm aware of my things, right? I'm aware of my shadow, but what I really want is the thing. And I'm digging my heels in and I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to perform. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be the best at everything I do. I'm going to do all of these things to get there. There's a difference between that and wow, I see all of these things at play in my scope, in my realm. And as they've climbed down, if they've become distilled, now I'm ready to align to the things that serve the version of me who is knowing of her divinity into this world. And that's where things really change. So the outcome, we activate the intuitive intelligence of the person. We cultivate a life that flows and that feels like it's really calling from your soul's purpose. And that doesn't mean that you have to have some grand thing to do. It just kind of like works. That then leads us to the romance, which is like
Yeah.
one of my favorites, obviously, right?
Oh,
Self-seduction. So once we've distilled, we've attuned. Now that we are open, we are attuned, we are aligned. Now we can receive. That is the realm of receptivity of the feminine, the embodied action of cultivating the love affair with the self that truly makes you feel like you can take up space in this world, the one that makes you that magnetic force. The one that allows you to develop that emotional intelligence, that integrity, the mastery of the mindful self-seduction, the mastery of the transformative aspect of creating and harnessing and becoming committed to an intimate relationship to self. Because that's the hardest part of this bit. People are really good at like, okay, we're getting there. This is dreamy. This feels good. I'm aligned. I want all of the things. And then we get to the point where we have to commit to the self. And sometimes we stop because we're afraid, because commitment means you're in this. You're in this for the long haul. You are in this with yourself. You are in this through thick and thin when things don't work for you, when they do work for you, when you're maybe a little ashamed, when maybe you've like done something that wasn't in alignment with your true self. You have to keep yourself in relationship to self. And that is part of the beauty of it, but that's also part of the challenge of it. But it gets to be such a radiant thing that even on the days when you wake up and you're like, I can't. I can't. You still show up with yourself, for yourself, through yourself, because you know that is worth it. And so the outcome of that, the outcome of the romance element is that radiant magnetic presence. You know, the people that walk into the room and everyone turns and they're like looking at them. This comes from self-romancing. You cannot command that presence in your world if internally you're like, I hate myself. I would actually like myself better if I could just lose 5 pounds. I would actually like myself better, or I can sustain my power as long as. I always tell people be very mindful of the as long as. I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm embodied, I'm amazing as long as I make the sales, as long as I have the partner of my dreams, as long as whatever. If those are in the way, this isn't romance. This is conditional love. And the thing about romancing, and you know this from like falling in love with yourself, right? To be romanced, you want to feel like there is an unconditional form of existence there for you to land in safely. And that's what allows you to receive the fact that you know that you are protected, you are cherished, you are seen, you are looked after, you are cared for. And the thing is, most of the time, we don't give that to ourselves. We look for it elsewhere. We look for
Mhm.
it in the romantic idea of the prince come to save us. We look for it in our friendships. We look for it in our kids. We look for it elsewhere, even community. And listen, and Raimonda knows this. I am a firm believer. Gosh, there's my Mexican accent today. That tells you that I am tired, but I'm excited as well. So I'm a firm believer that community is paramount, especially sisterhood.
Mm.
Like, oof, I will talk about this all day, every day without stopping. I mean, like, I literally will not shut up about this. That being said, still within that, the truth is that first comes you, first comes your love for you, first comes your relationship with you, first comes, again, that commitment for you to be with yourself and to fall madly in love with yourself day in and day out, to court yourself, to date yourself, to ask the questions, and to keep going back to the process. That's where we kind of start looping back to the distilling, the attunement. It's something that, so sometimes too, to go back to what I said earlier, and I'm almost done with these keys, is we feel stuck because we believe that we're going around in circles when what's actually happening, and this particular imagery is not mine, it comes from a friend, but I use it all of the time and always give her the credit, is what's happening is we're going up a spiral staircase. And as someone who's been to Europe, I can tell you, yeah, you go up a spiral staircase long enough and you're going to start questioning life. Like you're going to be like, why am I here? And that's what this journey feels like, right? Because you're like, did I not just loop here? Man, like I have done this before. I have looked out the window. I have seen that same view. But the thing is, you're higher, right? You're still going deeper into the place. And it's the same with your life. And it's the same with your romance. Didn't I already seduce myself into loving my jiggly arm fat? Yes. And today's a new day. Have you had a conversation with yourself about who you are, how you want to care for yourself, like all of those things? It's a daily thing. So don't feel stuck. Remember, you're taking one more step in the spiral staircase. You're climbing up, you're going up, you're looking out the same window, right? But it's not the same window. It's a floor above, so don't despair. So then we
Oh,
have,
Sapha, this is just such a powerful reminder, especially for women who want to step into their leadership, because a lot of times we forget our superpower, we forget how magical we are and how we can really, as I say, distill and use our magic to tune in not only to ourselves, but where do we serve people from, which is that depth of who we are. And this is just so powerful. I know you're just mega excited about sharing everything, but I was like, I want to remind our audience that, look, this is gold. What we're sharing, if you really take the moment to understand what Sappho is saying and start to use it as a daily practice, your life will change because in the way you show up and from a place of self-leadership and self-love, everything will change from your business to your relationships.
Mhm. Absolutely. This is why I always say, okay, technically, my two areas are self-seduction and personal sovereignty. Within that, there's this body of work. But it's exactly what you just said. It's that when you learn how to attune, how to drop, how to ground, how to grow roots into this realm, everything changes. Your relationships are no longer the same. The way that you lead, your integrity. I always say, like, if you're going to be a leader, that integrity has to be the one that first walks through the door. Like that's the one that is going to lead you because it's the one that is going to, once again, not to keep repeating myself, but keep you committed to yourself. If your integrity is leading the way and you know that something isn't right, believe me, you are going to stand up and speak up, even if it feels uncomfortable, it feels unknown, it feels uncertain, it feels like someone is going to judge you, they're going to call you too much. Most women, and I have worked with so many over the last couple of years, but most women have this massive fear of being too much. It's so funny because this is what happens. We want to be seen, but we don't want to be perceived. We want to be seen, but we don't want to be perceived, meaning I want people to know who I am. I want people to see me as the lead expert in my field, right? I want to be the voice for this particular thing that I do, but I don't want them to actually like perceive me. And so this kind of goes into the next, right? So next we have the emergence. And The fifth is they kind of go together. Emerge and reclaim, they're kind of both one and the same, but they're separate. So emergence means now we've made it all the way through the tube and into the distilled, like essence. This is the goodness, right? Now you get to lead the kind of life that is going to most benefit you first. You're going to speak truly. You are going to stand up for yourself. You are going to know your worth. You are going to break through the limiting patterns, beliefs, etc. And you are going to show up from a place of true self-love and develop that vision, that conviction. You're going to embody the fullness of who you are as a woman, empowered. And that's where that immobility in terms of like nothing is going to tear you down, no matter if you're having a good day, bad day, blah, blah. That's where that really comes in. So then the last one, which again, they kind of go together, but they're separate, right? Or we could separate them. The last one is the reclamation. Now that you've emerged, think about it as the journey, and this is very true, is the journey through the underworld. You've descended, you've distilled, you've gone through the process of attuning as you learn from the things that are around you, even if they're uncomfortable, even if they're scary, even if you think they're going to obliterate you, but you know you are committed. You are going to keep going. You know that you are worthy. You are romancing yourself through everything, and now you are emerging. As you emerge, the next step is to reclaim yourself. Now, no longer are you at the beginning of the labyrinth, but you're at the end. Now you get to reclaim who you are. Now you get to say, I am no longer this person. I am this person, and act from that place. And the thing about this process is that we get to do it over and over a lifetime. And that's what leads to personal sovereignty. So self-seduction is what leads the whole way through. And the outcome is that personal sovereignty. And the two together lead you through that labyrinthian. I'm very much into the divine feminine. So I always talk about and I weave aspects of the divine feminine into everything I do. They live you into that labyrinthian journey. And at the end of the day, the person that emerges is the person that you are choosing to embody so deeply that the whole world feels it. There's a
Mm.
resonance. There's like that throwing that pebble in the pond kind of, right? You're the one making the ripples, and you're making the ripples because you chose to descend, move through, fall in love with, reclaim, ascend, and kind of go back to that place of selfhood. So those are the five key elements. And if you notice, what's great about that is not once in that process did we say, you have to wake up every morning and say, I love myself. Not one in that process did we go through, okay, this is where you journal this part out. This is where you take out your pen and paper. Not once. Because what this is not the tip of the iceberg, but the depth. I'm a firm believer that change comes from the depth. That's why I always work within the dark feminine realm, right? Is because we want to sink our teeth deep. We want to go so far in that things change. That's the alchemy of this. And it isn't, again, it isn't about glossy things. It's about truly believing it. Because when you're there, that's when the change comes through. That feels a lot more tangible than saying, yes, I love myself and I accept myself, but internally we're still going through, but I haven't made the sales, or I haven't met the quotas, or I haven't met the love of my life,
Yeah.
or I'm a
Yeah.
terrible parent, etc. So those are the five keys.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's really interesting? Because when I introduced you, I said you help women excavate. And that's what truly came up in this conversation. The process is so deep and magical that it goes to those depths and actually creates lasting impact. Now, do you think that this kind of work requires having a mentor and someone to guide you? Because we don't always know our blind spots or not always able to create a new pattern in our conditioning, in what we know. It oftentimes requires somebody else to support us through the process.
I do. And I don't think that should be something that we fear or that we are ashamed of or that we are resistant to. I think that happens a lot too. I will say this, those of us who are in this world have probably been doing the things. Like I said, we've been doing reading the books, listening to the podcast, like doing all of the things. Doing all of the things, doing instead of being, a lot of times puts us in this place where we act from a place of I know. Like when I was a little kid, I'll say this real quick. When I was a little kid, people will tell me something new. They'd be like, "Hey, in order to play the piano, you have to," and it before they even got the direction out, I was like, "I know." I know how to do this. And we do that in the realm of self-development a lot, rather than just pausing for a second and going, hey, maybe there's a blind spot here that I'm not seeing because our lives we spend looking like here, right? I can only see as far as the tip of my nose, so to speak. Someone who has been through it and who's observing us and who can see our light and is also seeing that bird's eye view all around us. I said that and I got goosebumps because this morning in my run I got a feather. But anyway, and like as we're getting the bird's eye view of something, synchronicity, that's where we then stand to go further. That's not to repeat myself, but that's why when we do all of the things, we still feel stuck. You can only rationalize something so far. You can only understand your power so much when you haven't fully gone into the depth. And sometimes going into the depth, you need someone who's going to lead the way. If you've done like a labyrinth, sometimes there'll be people there, little guides with like their lantern and they'll kind of walk through you and in front of you so you
Yeah.
don't get lost depending on
Yeah.
where you are. So I do believe that we need mentorship and that's why we are here. And again, don't let that be scary. Sometimes we get scared because of the investment or the whatever. Don't let that be scary and don't let it be a point of shame. Listen, we're here to be beginners for the rest of our lives. If And I say this every time with everyone, so you can hold me accountable for this. But like, if I ever wake up one morning and say, I have the answers to everything, I am the master of everything, I don't need any more help. Oh my gosh, please get me help. Like, that is like, we want to have the extra support we needed. It's important. It's part of
Yeah.
life, it's part of the
Yeah.
journey. Yeah.
And look, and this is where you're going to start hitting roadblocks. When you start to have mindset like that, this is where you're going to start hitting roadblocks and wondering why it's not working. And it's because maybe there is fear of going to that depth. And I
Mhm.
know from personal experience that if you want to have bigger results, bigger impact, like with every stage of growth, you have to do bigger self development in order for you to hold that space, to hold that success, to hold the energy of everything that's happening, and to be able to go out into the world with that big energy in
Mhm.
order to make the level of impact that you want to make. So I know ego gets in the way of us of not wanting to open up, not wanting to do the work, maybe not wanting to admit we have to start all over again. But that's where we need to shed that ego and say, I'm here to start over again and meet myself as my new version of self.
Yes. Yes, precisely.
Mm.
That's what it is. And remember, like, again, it's a courtship. You don't rush a courtship, hopefully. But so you don't rush your own courtship either. And part of that process means like being open to receiving. Sometimes we think receiving means I'm just going to wake up in the morning and money is going to fall on my lap. Okay. I mean, that could be one way to look at it. But receiving also means receive the support, receive the help, receive the infusion, receive the outside. And you don't know what you don't know. So if you haven't been this version, right, we can think and manifest and be like, I'm going to be the version of myself who like goes to the four seasons and blah, blah. Okay, great. But if you don't know what that version looks like, how she moves, how she breathes, how she and what she brings to what you already have inside of you, then it's how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is magical. And I know it's such a deep conversational work, probably more than how much we can cover in today's conversation, but we certainly covered a phenomenal, as you call it, body of work that you do with women. So the last thing for me to say is, how do people connect with you if they want to explore a further conversation?
Absolutely. So I'm on Instagram these days at Your Soulful Goddess. That's the name of my company because
Yeah.
you are a soulful goddess, basically. That way people don't forget. So you are a soulful goddess, so you're a soulful goddess. You can also email me info@yoursoulfulgoddess.com. I have a podcast that is called Mindfully Sovereign for obvious reasons. And yeah, just lots of wonderful things going on in my world right now. So always happy to welcome people and have conversations and work together and walk this path together. So yeah,
And I know you do some amazing work as well as more intimate days with your clients, which is a great experience for those wanting to go a little bit deeper and explore.
VIPs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. In person. Listen, I know we love this, but sometimes we get really fatigued from being just online. So anyone who's wanting to be in person, I'm here for it. And the cool thing about that is VIP days are expeditious. Like we cover so much ground in those days that it's like the most intense, but also the most rewarding thing possible. So this, some of my favorite things to do these days are VIPs, but and one-on-one is mostly what I do. So yeah, you can find me.
Amazing. Mention your podcast name again. Mindfully Sovereign. Amazing. So you'll find Sapha on all the main platforms on podcasts and also social media. So make sure you connect. If you have enjoyed it, all I want to say to you, share this episode with somebody. You never know who needs this wisdom. This is such a powerful work, especially for women, especially right now, to be embodied, empowered in our sovereignty and really to fall in love a little bit more with ourselves. Can I say just a little bit more madly in love? Saba, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, Safa did not disappoint us with Safa Church. I could barely put my word in there. But look, this is deep work. And if you want big results, that's how deep we gotta go. If you enjoyed it, like I said, leave a comment below, share with others, and make sure you tune into other episodes with some amazing guests that we have on 5 keys to thrive. And I hope today's keys have definitely unlocked some new wisdom and maybe new dreams in your life as well. So we look forward to seeing you on another episode.